May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be always acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. My time among you, or with you, is nearing its end. This is the first of 3 Sundays that I'll be with you before I move. My family and I moved to Colorado. And as I said last week, there's an urgency in my heart with a few things that I want to say to you, to leave with you, to encourage you, to entrust to you before I leave. Last week we talked about building community, creating it, committing to it. This week I have another message that I want to talk with you about, but I want to start by telling you this whole week, but primarily Friday and Saturday, I spent in my office. It was an emotional time. I closed the door. Packing books and packing pictures, cards that I've received from you over the years. Some of you know, if you've ever been in my office, I have been collecting crosses since I was a child, and Mary's, and I was Mother Mary, and I was putting those into boxes, taking them off one at a time, remembering the times in my life when I had received them. And there's this one cross. I don't have many of the crosses with Jesus's body on the cross. Most of them are like this, where the risen Christ is what we focus on. But I do have a few crucifixes, and I remembered a time was when my kids were really little. We lived in Denver, and we had a meditation room right next to our kitchen. It was just a little space, and I had those crosses and Marys, many of them, on that wall. And Johnny was sitting with me one day. He was about 3 at the time. Is Johnny here today? I don't want to embarrass him. I didn't ask him if I could tell this. I usually do. But he was about 3, and he was sitting in my lap, and he pointed up at the wall, and he said, "Why is that man broken?" And I said, "What? What are you talking about?" And he got up and he pointed to Jesus on the cross, and he said, "Why is that man broken?" And it was a stunning question, jarring. I felt a responsibility to talk with him about it, to answer him in age-appropriate ways, but nonetheless to tell my truth about that. It's the first time I'd ever been asked a question like that. It was the first time I had encountered my own questions about what it means to follow a crucified God. It set me on a journey, that question. But when we got to the end of our conversation, Johnny looked at me again and he said, "Mommy, do we have to get broken too? Do we have to get broken too?" And that question sent me on a journey too. What does it mean to lay down our lives for others? What does it mean to follow the one who asks us to follow him in that trajectory? And when I say it set me on a journey, the way I was talking with one of our members this morning, Mary Gilhooly, and she used this phrase. She said, it's an adult relationship with your faith journey. When you encounter questions like that, sometimes questions that come from children, and you think, I need to think about that. I need to explore that. I need to get to the end of that. And I'll tell you what I see that happens sometimes when we're in the middle of a faith crisis, or when we say, "I'm not sure I believe that." Tim Keller said, he's a great teacher, he said, "Tell me about the God that you've rejected. Tell me about the God that you no longer believe in, because I probably don't believe in that God either. That we always have to be questioning our faith. And when questions come and we've never encountered them before, when questions come and we've never articulated our understanding of them, when we no longer can travel in the faith journey that we've had in the past because it has broken us or disappointed us or it doesn't make sense to us anymore, all of those are invitations to go deeper into our spirituality. They're invitations to say, yeah, I don't believe that. What do I believe? And maybe not even with our cognitive assent, maybe not even with just our mind, but with our whole spirit. I would encourage you to go there. Don't stop and say, you know, I don't understand, and maybe I don't need to. Maybe I just don't believe this anymore. No, go there. Ask questions. Interrogate your faith. Join with others who are interested in going deeper. When you get up on the edge of going to a retreat and you say, I don't know if that's for me, that's for the religious people. Go. Find what you find. Ask what you will ask. Ask what needs to be asked from your heart. If there's a Bible study or a teaching series, an inquirer's class, an invitation to learn a different form of prayer in the coming year, I encourage you to embrace that, even if you're afraid. Carl Jung once said, where your fear is, there is your task. Where your fear is, there is your task. Lean in. We are the people of the questions. That is our Anglican identity. Use your reason, use your mind, investigate, discern. There's a word. That's a sign of spiritual maturity. When you don't know the outcome and you're not really attached to an outcome, but you're willing to ask the questions and let others reflect with you and then discern. It's one of the reasons I love our lesson today from the Epiphany, the wise men. I love it for a couple reasons that I thought of last night. One is, for a long time in my life, I would go to Bible studies or read the scriptures on my own, and I would think, well, questions like this, did that really happen? Did that really happen? Can stars move? Did three kings really come from the east to see Jesus? And you know, we can ask that question, ask it, investigate it, interrogate it. But what's a more interesting question to me has become, what was the writer trying to say about God? About a Christ child, about God being sent to a humble family of refugees in the midst of a crisis. That's where God came. And the story of the Magi coming to see this child is a story about God sending the Christ not just to some, but to all, to those people from faraway places that we don't know or understand. But the other thing that this story teaches us that I think is really helpful today is that concept of discernment. Remember, Herod said, come back to me so that I can worship him too. Herod wanted to have Jesus killed, but he said to the kings, come back to me. And it said they had been warned in a dream to go home by another way. There's an implication in that they were praying, that they were discerning, and not alone, but together. They didn't just listen to the authority, the dogma, the doctrine, the directive that's given to them, but they prayed and they discerned. They listened to the one who guides them. They responded to their discernment. They reacted not out of fear, but out of something that was deeper. And that's what that story, at least in part, at least this time in my reading, is a part of it. St. John's, I love you so much. I love your curiosity. I love your feistiness. I love your doubts. I love your courage. And I encourage you in the coming year and years and throughout your spiritual journey to continue deepening your spirituality. Lifelong learning, lifelong development of your spirit. You would not say to your children, you've read enough. You don't need to learn anymore. You wouldn't say to someone who's on a journey of improving their health, oh, you've done enough. We're fine now. We continue to excavate and explore. Don't be afraid of the Bible. God can handle it. Right, Joycey? God can handle your questions and your doubts. Don't be afraid of what is coming up within you, because it might be the thing that's leading you to the next place. Amen.